war with Iran continues. The big question is, will they or won't they make a deal? Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are on their way to Pakistan for a second round of talks with Pakistani officials. Now, the talks come as the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed, causing economic hardships around the globe. Joining us now, Van Hipp, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Army, Shirin Nariman, former political prisoner in Iran, and Daniel Davis, retired Lieutenant Colonel for the U.S. Army. Thank you all for being with us today. Van, start with you. We seem to be at a standstill in the negotiations. So my question is, what more can the president do to get the Iranians to the table? And as a part of that, Van, who are we actually negotiating with all the fractures in the failing Iranian government that, as President Trump has said, we've decimated their leadership core?
Yeah, great question. I think the president has played this the right way thus far. It was the right move to block the Strait of Hormuz. We can't allow the United States and the free world to be blackmailed by an Islamist terrorist regime. What if communist China pulled the same stunt in the South China Sea, where $5 trillion worth of cargo vital to the economy of the free world flows through? He's done the right thing. This rift is real, I think, between the IRGC and some of their diplomats and leadership. Aragachi, who's there right now, the foreign minister, don't forget, a week ago yesterday, he was the one who announced the Strait of Hormuz was open. Only 2 hours later did the IRGC send maritime messages out, no, it's closed. President Pezeshkian, just 2 hours ago, asked the people to cut back on the electricity because their infrastructure has been destroyed. And by the way, IRGC has now kept him from meeting with the supreme leader and has now canceled all of his appointments. This rift is real, and I would hope the president now's the time to engage in psychological operations and say Nuremberg-style trials are coming when this is over with. And you will be held accountable for your terrorist activities, and you will be held accountable for the atrocities you've committed to your own people. And the only way out is to surrender or defect now.
Shirin, I want to turn to you. President Trump announced earlier this week that Iran agreed not to execute 8 Iranian women protesters. Now, do you see this as a good sign? Is this a negotiation in good faith, or is this a ploy because the public pressure was just too much?
I think it's a good thing that the president is asking, and I think part of the negotiation should be the stopping of violation of human rights and executions. Just this morning, one more young man was executed. In past 2 weeks, 20 people as young as 18-year-old have been executed. And these are either the members of Mujahideen Khalq, MEK, 9 of them were members, and the rest were young men who stood up to the regime, and they were arrested in January unrest. So one thing that you should remember, that Iranian regime is more afraid of its own people than the war. And we have to use that element. For that, that's why we have to make the violation of human rights and the stopping of any kind of executions in Iran part of our negotiation, because that's how we are empowering our people, Iranian people, for fighting back. And that's what the Iranian regime is more afraid. That's why they kill members that they fight against the regime. They know Iranian people got to the point that they have to fight this regime themselves, and these are the boots on the ground that is needed, and that's people. So let's empower people in Iran, and that's why peace in our peace negotiation, the violation of human rights, stopping of any kind of executions must be part of it.
Shirin, you raise a good point, and Colonel Davis, I want to turn to you on this. So the Iranians could force the president's hand if this does not work, if there are no negotiations that succeed, or if the fracture continues and we can't trust a peace deal. But here's the question. When we started this, there was a conversation about the Iranian people rising up to take power and make their own regime change. Is that something that's possible with the people that have seen tens of thousands killed in just the last year and have been really enslaved by their government, tortured and disarmed over the past 5 decades? So will the next step then be boots on the ground for the U.S.?
You know, I've actually been talking to a number of folks on my show from Iran who were part of those protests that happened in January, and several others as well. And what I have seen from people who absolutely did not like the regime, some hated it, but they said, listen, the result of all of this war has been to the rally around the flag thing, which we had been afraid of, because ultimately they're saying, hey, we're against our government here and we want to see it change. But these bombs and missiles, they don't just go after the regime, they kill all of us. Right. And so they feel like the only thing they can do is to rally around the flag. So I don't see any chance that there's going to be, you know, the Iranian boots on the ground coming to, you know, provide a fifth column from the inside. I also don't see militarily, there is almost zero chance that I don't think we even have enough troops to make a valid attempt. But when you look at the geography of Iran, especially those western mountains, it's a near and suicidal attempt to go in militarily. So I don't see that either.
Yeah, well, let's face it. I mean, I think the number was 7% of Americans favored boots on the ground. So an overwhelming majority, even an overwhelming majority of Republicans don't want to see that happen. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Now, Prince Reza Pahlavi is concerned on another level, an issue, which is the way journalists are covering the actions of this current regime. Take a listen.
It is clear to me that my 40,000 brave, innocent compatriots who were slaughtered in the fight for liberty are of little interest to these journalists. They seem more interested in criticizing America, asking why the United States and Israel killed the dictator that has slaughtered our people for 47 years, than criticizing the regime doing the slaughtering.
Shirin, do you agree with the prince that the media's rhetoric is misguided and dangerous?
I think actually he's irrelevant to the Iranian people because he has no support inside of Iran. He never condemned any of wrongdoing of his father. And he really is he's a manufactured leader that Iran doesn't need. Iranian people more than 47 years ago said no to monarchy and said no, and now they are saying no to
So Shirin, who do you put in charge then? I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said he's irrelevant. I mean, he's been the guy that a lot of Americans say, well, why don't we just put him in charge and we can negotiate from strength? Who takes command when the regime falls?
Well, I think you need to, when you're fighting this regime, you have to look at what are the options. National Council of Resistance of Iran, Madam Maryam Rajavi, we have been fighting for past 47 years. I was one of their supporters when I was arrested in Iran and I was in prison for 2 years. And right now, 9 of those 19 people that were executed were members of MEK. So that shows that who has the power, who has the experience, who has the plan. National Council of Resistance, Maryam Rajavi had announced the formation of provisional government. And we enjoy of having thousands of resistance units inside of Iran. These are the foundation for National Liberation Army, and that's what we are counting on. Oh. We believe on a regime change by our own terms and by our own selves. Wow. One thing that has been sidelined all the time in past 47 years is to disregard who's really capable of overthrowing this regime, who has the understanding and who has been fighting, and it has been sidelined, and that's the problem.
That's a great point, Shirin.
You need to engage with them.
It's a great point. I know a lot of Americans very concerned about MEK and some of the other groups thinking we're going to get ourselves into a civil war after regime change. So we're going to see how this plays out. I have to leave it there. Van Hipp, Shirin Nariman, and Lieutenant Colonel Davis, thank you all very much.
Thank you.